clips of non-stop rains within and outside of Metro Manila causing heavy flooding. The downpour is expected to last until the weekend as Typhoon Fabian and Tropical Depression Simpaka continue to enhance the southwest monsoon. Despite the rains, no storm signal has been raised in any part of the country. Good evening, I'm Robbie Alampay. You're watching The Big Story. Let's start with Typhoon Fabian enhancing the southwest monsoon over Luzon, bringing heavy rains in parts of Metro Manila. Give us updates on the ground is Shaila Francisco reporting live from Marikina. Shaila, what's the latest?
Robbie, since this afternoon, Marikina has been experiencing non-stop rains or intermittent rains rather, and they are monitoring possible flooding which has happened in other parts of the metro. Rain has been falling non-stop in Metro Manila as Typhoon Fabian continues to enhance the southwest monsoon. Floods were guttered to knee-deep in Times Plaza in Manila, making roads impassable. Roads in Mandaluyong also saw gutter-deep floods. Heavy rains were also felt in Marikina, with water level at the Marikina River increasing up to 13 meters. While this hasn't reached the alert level 1 threshold of 15 meters, officials have started opening evacuation sites. This will ensure social distancing during evacuation should the situation worsen.
Para mas magkaroon kami ng oras sa pagtanggap kasi nadagdagan kami ng mga city health protocols. Nireduce na rin namin yung capacity into 30%.
Despite this move, this evacuation site in Malanday remains empty. Marikina residents say they are used to these kinds of rains.
Parang lang kami sa nito. Normal na lang sa amin to. Wala lang po to. O kasi humihinto naman siya. Nung mga nakaraan kasi, tuloy-tuloy.
The Environment Department and the Marikina LGU are hoping that flooding in the city will not be as bad as seen in previous years, especially with Phase 1 of the Marikina River Restoration Project already complete. The project commenced following the massive flooding from Typhoon Raleigh back in 2020. It aims to improve the capacity of Marikina River to receive and drain excess rainwater. Included in the first phase are the removal of encroachments, dredging and widening of Marikina River along Barangka, Kalumpang and Industrial Valley Complex. The task force has so far widened the river by 20 meters and deepened it by 2 meters.
We can reduce yung depth of the flooding and at the same time mas mabilis na mag-subside. Kung 6 hours noon, mas mabilis na mag-subside.
Pag ganitong malakas na po ulan, may mga binabahang lugar na po. Pero sa ngayon po, panatag pa rin po ang marami po sa amin dito.
The task force is now set to start the phase 2 of the project, which will cover Barangay Santolan and Ugong in Pasig City. The DNR is expecting phase 2 to be completed after 4 to 5 months. Robbie, as of 7 p.m., water level in Marikina River has subsided to 12.7 meters. While no flooding has been reported, yet they are still monitoring hotspots such as Santo Niño, Malanday, Tumana, Langka, and Concepcion 1. Robbie?
Maraming salamat, Shaila Francisco, reporting live from Marikina. To give us updates on Typhoon Fabian, we have on the line Pag-asa weather forecaster Shelly Ignacio. Ms. Ignacio, welcome to The Big Story.
Yes, magandang gabi rin po sa inyo, Sir Robbie.
Ma'am, tama po ba? Typhoon Fabian, palabas na ng Philippine Area of Responsibility, but are we expecting more rainfall in the coming days?
Yes, asahan pa rin po natin na habang yung bagyo po ay humahatak pa rin po ng habagat at patuloy pa rin po yan hanggang sa weekend, ay yung western section po ng Luzon, asahan po natin kasama na po yung Metro Manila, patuloy pa rin po magpapaulan po yung ating southwest monsoon, pero gradually po ihin naman po ito.
Okay, pero in the meantime po, mayroon pong isa pong papasok pa na bagyo?
Tama po kayo dyan, meron po tayong binabantayan na isa pa pong bagyo na tropical depression po yan, si Simpaka. At yan po, estimation po natin ay yung location niya ay 1,145 km west po ng extreme northern Luzon. Pero sa ngayon po ay hindi pa po natin inaasahan na papasok. Pero continuous monitoring pa rin po tayo.
Maraming salamat. That was Pag-asa weather forecaster Shelly Ignacio. Meanwhile, several of the country's delegates to the Tokyo Olympics have already arrived in Japan ahead of opening day on Friday. To get the latest on how they are doing, we have with us from Tokyo, Gretchen Ho, who is part of the One Sports coverage team for the Tokyo Olympics. Good evening, Gretchen!
First of all, Robbie, good evening. Very, very proud to say that we are live from the International Broadcasting Center here in Tokyo, where thousands of broadcasters and media personnel from all over the world have gathered to bring you the biggest sporting event in the world. Now, after a year or more than a year of postponement, it feels good to finally be able to say that we are just 2 days away from the opening of the Tokyo 2020 Games.
In the meantime, Gretch, we know it was delayed because of COVID. What is the atmosphere now in Tokyo?
Robbie, people here are excited, but you could feel a lot of cautiousness from the movements of everybody. We can't go around that much. We need to put on our face masks all the time. There are a lot of protocols to go through. We can't really mingle with other people or talk to the locals here. But there's also a feeling that, finally this is happening. Finally, we are very near to the games, although everybody, again, is a bit cautious as anything can cause the cancellation of the games.
Yeah, but notwithstanding everything that you mentioned, the protocols, the restrictions, how are our athletes doing?
Our athletes right now, they're preparing for their matches. 16 of the 19 Pinoy athletes are here in Tokyo. We are just waiting for our golfers and pole vaulter EJ Obiena. And we haven't been able to see them. Our request to go inside the athletes' village has been denied. But tomorrow we will get to see them personally. But for sure, as they have been posting on their social media accounts, they've been preparing and really getting themselves ready for that gold medal chance and opportunity.
Okay, maraming salamat, Gretchen Ho. We're looking forward to reports from Tokyo. Ingat kayong lahat dyan. We will hear from Gretchen later on in the program. But for now, these are the other big stories tonight. Close contacts of the Delta case in Misamis Oriental have tested positive for COVID-19. Save for one, all Delta cases in Cagayan de Oro have also tested positive again for the virus. The Supreme Court has blocked petitions questioning the country's withdrawal from the International Criminal Court, but the High Court says the country, the Philippines, still has to cooperate with the ICC for crimes committed prior to the country's exit. And the 5-decade wait for the Milwaukee Bucks is over. The franchise has clinched the NBA championship after a tough 105-98 victory against the Phoenix Suns. These big stories after the break. Good evening. You're still watching The Big Story. I'm Robbie Alampay. The non-stop monsoon rains have brought inconvenience and some trouble to Manileños who lined up for COVID-19 vaccines earlier today. Romel Lopez with the story.
Residents lining up for COVID-19 vaccines at the San Andres Gym in Manila had to endure gutter deep flood while waiting for their turns. Some of them expressed dismay over the supposed lack of system and the inconvenience brought about by the incessant rains.
Nilalamig ho kami din. Kanina pa kaya kami yung alas 4. Baka mas mauna pa kaming magkasakit sa trangkaso bago pa kami di ba?
One residents braved the floodwaters for fear of contracting Delta variant.
Tinuloy na lang namin kahit ganito. Umuulan. Basta nakabaksin lang.
It was only around lunchtime when the vaccinees were able to enter the gym. Manila Mayor Isko Moreno himself was on the ground during the inoculation and assured that they would all get vaccinated.
Walang nabaha, nauuwing luwaan. Pumanatag kayo, hindi ko sasayangin ang araw ninyo.
Doctor Research Group earlier reported that Manila saw a significant increase in the cases last week.
I'm happy to share it to you. Today is our third day of decline in COVID infection. I attribute it to the people. Maybe they are behaving properly. I attribute it to our tracer, tester, and sa isolation team. Then I attribute it to, maybe the vaccine.
For News 5, Romel Lopez, we are One News.
The southwest monsoon continues to bring moderate to heavy rainfall over different parts of Luzon. As of 5 p.m., orange rainfall is raised over parts of Batangas and Cavite as well as Bataan. This means flooding is threatening low-lying areas and near river channels. Meanwhile, Pag-asa has placed under yellow warning Metro Manila, Zambales, Laguna, and other parts of Cavite as shown on your screens. The yellow warning is also up in these areas in Batangas. Areas under yellow warning are advised to expect possible flooding in low-lying areas and near river channels. Light to moderate rainfall with occasional heavy rains are also expected in Nueva Ecija, Bulacan, Quezon, Tarlac, Pampanga, and Rizal. The Lacson-Soto tandem for next year is a done deal with just a formal confirmation due on August. Senate President Tito Soto confirmed that he will run for Vice President with Lacson as his president. The pair is set to make an official announcement on their election bid on August 4. Soto told Radyo 5's Ted Filon that he sees no reason to back out. He adds that he and Lacson are offering an alternative to the two highest posts.
Wala ako nakikita. Kasi maliwanag yung posisyon namin eh. Hindi kami pro-opposition. Hindi rin kami pro-administration. Be able to provide the alternative. Ganun eh. Yung the alternative na hindi kayang ibigay ng opposition at hindi rin kayang gawin ng administrasyon.
Meanwhile, former Bacolod Mayor and Congressman Monico Puentevilla confirmed to the chiefs that Senator Manny Pacquiao will run for president in next year's elections. He said Pacquiao also remains open to alliances with groups like Isang Bayan and the National People's Coalition following the fallout with PDP Laban.
Mga kapatid, tatakbo ng Pangulo si Senador Pacquiao. May party man o walang party. Manny Pacquiao, Amy, is open to everybody. To everybody. He wants to talk to everybody. He wants to unite everyone. But those who don't want him, no problem.
The Supreme Court has junked petitions questioning the country's withdrawal from the International Criminal Court, deeming it moot and academic. But in the same ruling, the Supreme Court said the Philippines still has to cooperate with ICC proceedings for cases prior to the 2019 withdrawal. The ruling, however, acknowledges the President's authority in making such a decision as head of state and primary architect of the country's foreign policy. The Supreme Court also said that despite the exit from the ICC, the judiciary still has enough powers to protect human rights contrary to speculations raised by the petitioners. Close quote.
And that'll do it. It's over. The Bucks have done it. it's celebration time for the Milwaukee Bucks. They have ended their 50-year NBA championship drought after closing out the Phoenix Suns in Game 6, 105-98. The Bucks became only the fifth team to win the best-of-7 championship series after losing the first two games. It was a back-and-forth affair between the two teams during Game 6, but the Bucks proved once again they were the better team in the clutch. Two-time MVP Giannis Antetokounmpo turned in an all-time great finals performance with 50 points, 14 rebounds, and 5 blocks. Giannis became only the 7th person in NBA history to score 50 points in an NBA Finals game. His dominance throughout the finals also earned him the 2021 Bill Russell NBA Finals MVP award. Kiko Demihilio, We Are One News.
Time for another quick break. More of the big stories when we return.
On July 26, 2021, the President will deliver his SONA one last time. One News brings you the complete coverage of this year's SONA. From the pre-event talks to the post-event analysis. Know what his administration did in the past 5 years and what needs to be done before his term ends on The Duterte Years. Broadcast starts at 2:30 p.m. here on One News.
Good evening, I'm Robbie Alampay. You're still watching The Big Story. Concerns over reported local cases of the Delta variant have started to spread, dampening sentiments throughout the country. The health department is careful not to call it community transmission just yet. But why? Mobile journalist Pamela Vasquez tells us in this report.
The health department is still studying the linkages between the local cases of Delta variant that it announced last week. And that's why it's refusing to classify it as local or community transmission for now. Because the globally accepted definition of community transmission is when cases can no longer be traced to each other and the source of infection is not known. And local transmission is when the cases are linked to each other. But the 11 cases they announced last week were spread out across the country.
Kailangan natin antayin yung sapat na ebidensya. Ang assumption talaga is galing talaga sa labas. Hindi naman po dito tayo nagkaroon ng mutation.
Still, other experts say that given how long it takes for the Philippine Genome Center to test, it's impossible there isn't local transmission happening already.
Unang-una, may mga nag-positive na wala namang possible contact doon sa mga umaalis sa labas, no?
One problem with the Delta variant as well is early studies indicate that infected people carry more viral loads and could be shedding more virus for weeks. That means one infected person can pass it on to more people than he realizes.
Portions of the virus are still detected within the individual after patient has recovered or has no symptoms anymore. They may be shedding the viral particles, but they may not be infectious.
That's why the DOH is retesting at least 8 active cases of Delta that were earlier tagged as recoveries and put these patients on the second round of 14-day quarantine. Of the 16 known Delta cases, 91 close contacts have been identified. Though there is no community transmission yet, experts are now calling for heightened restrictions once more. Metro Manila mayors have urged the IATF to suspend the rule allowing kids to go out. I'm Pamela Vasquez and we are One News.
4 of the 5 Delta variant patients in Cagayan de Oro have tested positive again for COVID-19. Cagayan de Oro Mayor Oscar Moreno says the 4 patients have been transferred to a temporary monitoring facility. This was over the weekend. Moreno said the patients will remain in the facility until all have recovered. Meanwhile, Misamis Oriental Governor Eugenie Emano appeals to the national government to provide the entire province additional vaccines. He says supplies should not be focused on Cagayan de Oro alone. 2 close contacts of the Delta variant case in the province also tested positive for COVID-19. Strict health protocols are being enforced for athletes and media ahead of the Tokyo Olympics. Let's get more details on these. We have with us again, Gretchen Ho is reporting live from the International Broadcasting Center in Tokyo. Gretchen, what protocols are being done over there?
Robbie, with the Tokyo Olympics happening in the middle of pandemic, it has been both a milestone and a challenge to get to this point. And that hasn't stopped the Philippine dream, with 19 athletes vying for that elusive gold medal finish. In its 97-year history in the Olympics, the Philippines has yet to bag a gold medal. We ranked second to Malaysia with the most medals, but without a gold. However, with a 19-strong and talent-rich contingent to the Games, this might be the country's best shot for gold. 16 out of the 19 Pinoy Olympians have already arrived. Headlined by flag bearers Yumir Marshall and Kiyomi Watanabe.
Hanggang itong last month na nag-training po kami sa Colorado Springs at ngayon nandito na po ako sa Tokyo Olympics at handang-handa na po para sa laban.
Four-time Olympian and silver medalist Heidelin Diaz got to work right away. While rower Chris Nievares, who will be the first to compete, already dipped his feet in the water. Others have also begun their preparations in Tokyo. The real challenge? Making sure the Games don't become a super spreader event. More than 11,000 athletes will participate for 33 sports. Add to that, thousands of officials, broadcasters, and volunteers.
Good morning! It's our flight today to Tokyo. I'm a little bit nervous because it's my first time to fly out during the COVID-19 pandemic. First time to wear all of this traveling. But I'm ready. I got everything I need here. I got my bags, luggages, got a ton of masks. I got my alcohol, downloaded apps on my phone, and my face shield, which I'll be wearing only until here in the Philippines. Tara!
Our broadcast team went through rigorous protocols prior to our flight, including 2 Japanese embassy-certified RT-PCR tests. We also had to download several apps to monitor our health status. The PVC card, meanwhile, served as our visa. Upon arriving in Tokyo, more forms greeted us, plus a saliva test. And while walking the streets of Tokyo might be a good side trip, nope, that's just not going to happen. Location tracking apps make sure that you won't get to wander, save for a 15-minute run to the convenience store or for takeaway. Our 14-day quarantine also means everything has to be arranged a day prior. Based on latest data, 71 COVID cases have already been linked to the Games, some already within the athletes' village. This has worried many Japanese, but some still volunteered.
We didn't take a vaccine before we work on this job. So I'm a little bit scared about that.
I'm interested in Tokyo Olympic and I want to get international experience.
Yeah.
Yes.
It took us a total of 5 hours to get to our hotel, but all of these protocols are necessary to ensure the safety and success of the Games. Robbie, despite the health crisis, like what I mentioned, many are eagerly awaiting the opening of the Tokyo Olympics, and everybody's excited but a bit cautious about spreading of the virus. And we will be bringing you more updates on our athletes live from Tokyo here on Signal TV, TV5, One Sports, and Smart. From the International Broadcasting Center, back to you, Robbie.
Maraming salamat and keep safe, Gretchen. That was Gretchen Ho reporting live from the International Broadcasting Center in Tokyo, Japan. And that wraps up today's Big Story. Catch us again tomorrow at 8 p.m. on Central Channels 8 and 250. Please like our Facebook page, One News. For more in-depth analysis, visit our webpage, onenews.ph. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. Sa ngalan po ni Gretchen Ho, I'm Robbie Alampay. We are One News. Good evening.